Hello, I'm the Lich. You know, from level 10, leader of the dungeon, the boss. And welcome to the Liching Hour. This is our first recap of our first episode of our first campaign into Dungeon Crawl Classics. But before we get into recap, in-dungeon news. Owlbear Wrestling is being moved to Wednesdays on level 3. Same time. I repeat, Owlbear Wrestling is being moved to Wednesdays on level 3, same time. In other news, the trolls on level 6 have organized a seminar on how to set up IKEA pit traps, for those of you who would like to set up traps on your own level. But keep in mind, these are the same trolls that think it's hilarious to get a basilisk shit-faced drunk and then send it out on level 2. So take out the grain of salt, it's probably a trap. And finally, the vampires in HR would ask that whoever is setting the zombies on level 1 on fire to please stop. They are annoying enough as it is without also being on fucking fire. Thank you, and that's the news. Okay, so our first adventure is the Dungeon Crawl Classics Sailors on the Starless Sea, a zero-level adventure by Harley Stroh. Now, a zero-level adventure in Dungeon Crawl Classics means that you have a bunch of zero-level characters who don't have classes and have about 2 hit points between them all. You send them off on an epic adventure, and you see who lives and who dies. A lot of people die. Whoever lives becomes level 1, and you take them on from there. That night, this first episode, we had 12 such characters from 3 different towns. The town of Partridge Quarry, the village of Damp Moss, and the hamlet of Fairy Deep. Now, all these little villages have one thing in common, other than, all the other obvious things they have in common. But they all are within 2 to 4 miles from this very ancient and ominous keep. Now, nobody in any of these towns has any idea where this keep came from. Well, it's always been there. They don't know what's ever come from there. They don't know its history. They know nothing about it other than to stay the hell away from it. And recently, people have started disappearing from these villages and livestock and such, and all signs point to some kind of evil presence inside the keep. So we have 12 characters, 4 from each village, who have banded together, who in their first episode are standing outside the keep, a little further down the road. And this is kind of following their journey into this evil place. Starting with Partridge Quarry, we have Snope, the lawful dwarven miner. Not lawful. In Dungeon Crawl Classics, there are 3 alignments: law, chaos, and neutral. Snope is law, dwarven miner. Tom, the gambler. Birdie, the gravedigger. And Miggle, the elven falconer. Now, all 4 of these guys, Snopes, Tom, Birdie, and Miggle, have been friends their whole entire lives. And Tom is a particularly dumb person. He rolled an intelligence of 4. And his whole life, Snope, Birdie, and Miggle have been helping him out, protecting him. Tom hasn't had the best life. His mother is one of the town drunks, and she's known for finding interesting places to pass out after leaving the inn late in the night. Well, on a particular day, just recently, she didn't come home, which is unheard of. So Tom went out looking for her. He couldn't find her in any of the usual places. Nobody could find her. They think she's been abducted and taken to the keep. Tom sets off for the keep, and Snope, Birdie, and Miggle, being the good friends that they are, go on with him to help protect him and help him find his mother. Then we have the town of Deep Moss. Or what did I say? They were the village of Deep Moss. Here we have Padre, the dwarven apothecarist. Which I don't know if it's different than apothecarist. I think it's the same thing. So he makes potions or something. Cassius, the woodcutter. Barrow, the elven artisan. And Talia, the elven barrister. Now, Padre, he's a dwarf. He's kind of the Rick of the group. He he convinced he's a very he's not a very well liked person. He's a good person. He's lawful. He's law, but his personality is very low. He's got a 4. I'm sorry, he's got a 5, and he's not very. For sake of this, that meant he's a very ugly person. Now Cassius, the woodcutter, is a very weak and very also even more ugly than Padre person. He's got 4. They've kind of banded together over the years because of the shared kind of curse. Padre convinces Cassius, who's chaos, who cares only for himself really. He convinces Cassius to go with him to the keep to try to rid the keep of this evil, whatever's causing it there. Cassius, smelling an opportunity to maybe, I mean, he's a really weak woodcutter with 1 hit point in a town that needs woodcutters, and he's not very good at it. So he's going to try to elevate his station, but find himself some treasure. Now, Padre had found out about people going up there because Barrow and Talia had been talking about going up there. Now, Barrow and Talia are elves. Talia had a client. She's a barrister, a lawyer. She had a client a shifty fellow, who had promised her a treasure map in payment for getting him off the hook. And that person disappeared, and they think he went to the keep. So Talia wants her treasure map. Her partner, Barrow, a big dude, big in a flabby kind of way, he goes with her because it's in his best interest as well. They're both chaos. They're both looking out for themselves. They're going along, letting Padre call the shots because they're really just interested in getting this treasure map and getting out of there. And then finally, from Fairy Deep, we've got Elamor, the very charismatic confidence artist, but he's not too smart. Little John and Cantrick, his buddies. Little John's a herbalist, and Cantrick's an elven forester, and both of them partake in a certain herb that keeps them very neutral and happy for most time, and just happy to go along with whatever Elamor wants them to do. Elamor talks them into just about anything, and Elamor happened to talk them into going with him to the keep to plunder it for whatever it's worth, because he's a con man in a small town and he needs something. And then someone overheard them talking in the inn, and decided to come along with them and offer his sword. Is Bundy, the lawful squire. He's a squire in a small town with no knights, so he's looking to prove himself. And he's got the best weapon. He's got a longsword and a steel helmet, which Elamor has been eyeing, thinking the first chance he gets, he's going to take that off of Bundy's dead body. So you got these 12 people. They're all meeting up outside of the thing, and on the road to the keep, the first thing they encounter just outside the keep gates are 2 corpses animated by these viney plant creature things that have dug themselves into these corpses and sent the corpses off to fight them. During this fight, Birdie, the gravedigger from Partridge Quarry, one of the 4 friends from Partridge Quarry, falls in a gruesome way, and they spend some time burying her out there. So that was the first death of 3 that night. So Birdie dies. That just steals the will of Snopes, Tom, and Meggle, that they're going to find Tom's mother, because this is a horrific place, and they're going to carry on in Birdie's name. As they go into the keep, they have to pass under this huge portcullis. They hear whoops and hollering and animal sounds, and a bell goes off, and they've alerted somebody, and they're not sure what's up above them in the keep, but the portcullis comes crashing down. Luckily, no one gets caught. Everybody's okay. Once they're in the courtyard, they're faced with it's a big place, but they see in front of them a big well of some sort with a pulley system, and a trail going from the well to a tower to the east that is still standing. And this pathway is filled with all these different animal tracks, from large snake trail to hoofs and talons and human feet, going back and forth between the well and the tower. And also off to the distance is a building. The only remaining structure that's still, other than the tower, that's still remaining, is a small building against the east wall. Now Elamor, our confidence artist, he's there. He wants to leave no stone unturned when it comes to finding himself some treasure. And he's always wanted to get into this place and find out what kind of cool artifacts there was, but he's never been able to get enough people around to do it. Now he's got his chance. So he talks everybody into going to this small building because he thinks there might be stuff in it. His greed ends up, of course, being a little bit of his downfall. So, not a little bit, the whole downfall. So they find in this building it's a chapel that has been burnt down. It must have been hundreds of years ago, but every step they take inside it, they can still feel the cinders baking and hear it crackling, and as if this event is still happening around them. And the most notable thing about this whole place was a big fountain with this frog thing that had ruby eyes, which of course drew Elamor, our con artist, to it. But out of the toad's mouth was this black oozing liquid in a pool that turned out to be somewhat sentient. And as he got closer, it reached out, and before he could do anything, it engulfed him and fried him there. And it took the rest of the crew to beat it down and kill it. But what's odd is that Snopes had found a censer of smoking incense that was still smoking, that when he spread the incense, it made the tar ooze stop, and it no longer moved, so everyone was able to kill it. So he took that with him. And so that was our second death. Elamor died in the chapel. And as they came out, the well called to them. They felt that they needed to check that out as well. So they went up there and they heard a cry. And Tom, our gambler, the one whose mother had lost, he could swear it was his mother's voice. He ran, and as he stared into the well, looked down at the well, it was just black void, and it called to him, and he couldn't stop himself from letting go and falling into the well, and his friends could not catch him in time, and he fell in there, swallowed up by this nothingness, and he was gone as well. And that's where we left our adventures for our first episode, is at the well, having lost the third person. None of them, and a side note, Cassius, the woodcutter, he's the smartest. He's a weak person, but he's very, as far as like strength and agility and stuff, but he's very smart, and he's chaotic as well, and he felt that there was some kind of evil force at the well, and he stopped his people from going into it, but he was able to stop, and because of his warning, the rest of them didn't stare in there. And now that Elamor is dead from Fairy Deep, we have Little John and Cantrick, the herbalist and the elven forester who like to smoke their herb, a little lost, except that Bundy, the squire, of course, stepped up to be the Rick and leader of their group. And these guys are neutral. Those guys both are neutral, so they feel they've experienced enough of the chaos around them to understand that they need to. They're important to play a part here to try to establish some sort of balance, maybe destroy whatever evil is in this keep. So they decide they will go on, led by the lawful Bundy squire. It's a younger kid, charismatic, and if not a little idealistic. So that's where we leave our characters. We will be back on, or I will be back on at 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday, every Friday, and chat plays. So anybody, I had someone helping to make decisions in chat this first episode, and I would welcome you to help out as well. Any input whatsoever will help, and any questions on how to play Dungeon Crawl Classics. It's a really great game. Check it out at goodmangames.com. And that is it. I hope to see you Friday. Viva la Dungeon!